5 reasons why I don't really like the time change that much. So we know that in the U.S., some states are trying to lobby for permanent DST, but it's going to require a congressional vote to do so, which is unlikely to pass. Now, the Central Time portion of Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas are trying to go on standard time year-round, but the people are opposed to it. What you have to understand, though, is that for some places, they really belong, like significant portion of Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas that are in Central Time should really be Mountain Time, but the government, of course, puts them on Central Time so that they can have more time in the evening, even though they're going to have less time in the morning. I know I'm stuttering a bit, and there's also noises. Sorry about that. Anyway, so we also know that the Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Maine, if they can all pass this in conjunction, maybe Connecticut fails, but the others have to pass it. These 5 New England states, all of them except Vermont, will go on Atlantic Standard Time and be there year round. Although I don't think that Long Island, where I live, would join suit in that. Which would mean that if you go northwest from my area to Stamford, they'll be an hour ahead of us, even though they're slightly to the west of us. It'll be weird. Time change boundaries will undoubtedly be weird. And really, New England parts of New England really should be on Atlantic time, like Maine. But there are some reasons why I think that having a year-round standard time might be beneficial. First of all, the time change itself is problematic. So why should we have permanent DST over no DST? Well, so if you think about it, today the sunrise was 6:31 a.m. and the sunset will be 4:42 p.m. Now, what you have to understand is that the solar noon today was actually 11:37 a.m. and the angle of insolation of solar noon, of course, was only 32.76 degrees. Because, the only reason why it's still somewhat warm, when we have the same insolation as we do in early February, the only reason why we're much warmer than early February, at least traditionally, is because in early February, the insolation isn't high enough to heat us up, whereas in November, you still have the heat that's remaining over from the beginning of October when the angle of insolation was closer to, if not above, 40 degrees, and you had that to kind of help a little bit. Not that it would really be too useful for you in the long run, but you had that to help you in the beginning of the month. By the way, side note, as for the editing, yeah, I know it makes my videos look unprofessional if I can't edit them. I'm still trying to find ways to edit them, but it's not easy. Maybe I can make a video on my computer and then do like a screen recording. And if I can do that, it'll make my videos at least look more sophisticated. I'll try computer screen recording. I'll try computer screen recording. But as for the reasons why DST is a problem, so we know that having a 6:31 a.m. sunrise is obviously better than yesterday, where you had a 7:30 a.m. sunrise and a 5:43 p.m. sunset. Now, the problem is, though, is that a lot of people, especially on a weekend, aren't going to be up at 6:30, and they would prefer to have nighttime DST. See, the thing is that the sun is more in a south position than it was, yesterday with the 12:37 p.m. solar noon. It was closer to due south. Also, as you can see, it's currently at 1:11, which again, in DST would be 2:11. You're gonna understand the difference too. Now, of course, the thing is, though, is that this sounds depressing, and it's going to be a bit hard to adjust to the fact of having the sun set well before 5 when it used to set well after 5:30. It's going to be hard to adjust to this. Now, if you didn't have DST, though, you would feel, so night times shift back by 3 hours and 3 minutes. So they go from 8:29 p.m. to 4:26 p.m. But if you're on a year-round standard time, it'll go from 7:29 p.m. to 4:26 p.m. So first we're going to discuss why a lot of the reasons why I think the time change is bad. But then I'm going to take it a bit more personal and explain why having a year-round DST would be it would be detrimental to society. And you know, especially in a lot of the U.S. because they're being pushed back. Like, for example, I could kind of see it in places like in Maine. I can kind of see it. But like in Indianapolis, they're about 45 minutes ahead, even during standard time, or about that. So they'll be an hour and 45 minutes ahead during DST. Like some cities like London and Philadelphia right on it. New York City and Boston are actually slightly ahead, but a lot of cities are really significantly far behind. Like especially like look at Western Alaska. I mean, Juneau is pretty much on. Anchorage and Fairbanks and Battle are well over an hour behind for Battle for parts of the year. Sun doesn't rise at all. Get to Norman and you're about 2 hours behind, even without the ST. Oh, by the way, this is actually the thing I climbed. I climbed it back a year ago and I uploaded to my channel about a month ago. And this is actually the video that got me 290 views. So might as well make this my thumbnail. Oh my god, it's so much harder. My shoes are muddy. And again, holding a camera is not easy. And I'm going to show you that's the reward. But again, very difficult climb. Anyway, so you see that in the morning hours from 5:20 to 7:18, but it will be in probably this it will be 4:21 to 7:18. So anyway, so here's why I think DST is why the time change is bad. So first of all, we're gonna get into like the things. For example, if you don't have this DST at all, you would already have been acclimated to this. Basically, in the summer, the sun would go up at about 4:20 and set at about 7:30. And this, I wouldn't necessarily immediately call this as better, but the time change actually causes health risks because of the extra of the hour change, and And I would definitely say that an hour change is a bit extreme. But in my opinion, DST is only worthwhile for about 4.5 months of the year. 7.5 months should be spent in standard time, even though we know in our current world about 4.25 months is on standard time and 7.75 months is on DST. It used to actually be an even 6 and 6, and I thought that was a bit overkill. Then they made it Then they made it I think 6.75 and 6.25, and then they added an additional month to that. So they really shrunk the range of standard time, but they expanded the ST. They expanded it in the okay direction, in my opinion. But they really should have been pushing it back on the other direction. It's pretty clear that the ST is more temperature related than insulation related, because like for example, for the last couple of days, it's been getting into the mid-30s at night, and it's only been hitting the lower or maybe mid-50s during the day. That is unnatural. Generally, you should have an average high of 58 degrees and an average low of 42. But there's also a cold thing coming through right now in our first polar vortex of the year. Note how I'm kind of trying to use air quotes, but it's not really working. It's been getting really cold. I don't know if it frosted tonight, probably because the frost would have come and gone an hour earlier, because hell, DST ended. But, that's just my stance on it, is that you'll already be used to it. So, as you go through, you'll discover that by August 10th, you already have 14 hours of daylight, with the sun going up at 6 and setting at 8. In this scenario, the sun would go up at 5 and set at 7. So, already by 6, you already start to have people who are trying to commute to work. You already have people who are trying to commute to work and whatnot. So, it's a bit hard on them, because they're going to have to, some people are going to have to start driving to work in twilight. But the problem is that you're only a month and a half after the solstice, and you've only really lost about an hour's worth of daylight up to that point. So, it's going to get much worse. With it being 5 and 7, you have nothing to worry about. Yes, I do understand the strong opinion that, oh, well, what if we want to be outside when it's later out? And I completely get that stance. But, in my opinion, the world is a little bit too night-centered as it is. What you should probably wind up doing instead is maybe it being pretty much pitch black out by 7:45, except in the western sky. Like, for example, I was driving yesterday. The sunset was 5:43, and we were driving on the 135 and 495 at about 6:20. When we were on 135, it was pitch black. When we were on 495, you could actually still see a bit of light, because at this point, because the sun's light kind of centers the focus around a point. But it's not really due west, except at the equinox. It's more of a northwest in the summer and a southwest during the in spring, and a southwest during the fall and winter. But I tell you, the 6 weeks surrounding an equinox, 3 weeks on the other side, is when it is truly a due east and a due west. At least at about 41 degrees north. This is going to vary depending on your latitude. Again, this is very important. This is going to vary depending on your latitude. But more importantly is that in case you wonder what's going on, when I close my mouth, I'm closing it a bit unnatural if you are hearing those audio ticks. That could be the people in my area, I don't know. I do walk when I make these videos. Not good for my data. By the way, so yeah. Which doesn't mean, of course, that by the beginning of September, you're already cutting down to 13 hours of light. So at this point, the sun, it's about mid-September when the sunset in our current world is before 7. In this new world, it would be before 6. But the bonus is that the sunrise, is all, like, for example, I noticed that on my, on like 9/11, that kind of region, the sunrise is already at 6:30 a.m. It will be at 5:30 a.m. Now, 6:30 a.m. is coincidentally also like pretty much about what it is right now. Like on a September equinox, the sun rises at 6:41 and the sun sets at 6:50. In my opinion, 6:41 is a little bit problematic because people are going to have to start driving when it's in nautical twilight. Nautical twilight isn't pitch black if you're going in the right direction. But for example, a lot of people in Long Island have to drive west and east. This is problematic because they're driving away from the sunlight. Now, if you live in, say, New Jersey and to go to New York, then yes, you'd be driving in the correct direction and you'd be okay. But not everyone is so fortunate to be able to drive east to work and come back west. My dad is, my mom is, well, actually, because of coronavirus, she has to work at home, but my mom wasn't. So some people don't have to go to New York City to work from our area. Some people have work out in Suffolk County, but some people do. And in my opinion, it's a bit unfair for them to have to go out to out there. Now, Under this new world, it'll be 5:41 a.m. sunrise and 5:50 p.m. sunset. Now, yes, a 5:50 sunset, already when you're at an equinox, it doesn't sound very appealing. But the benefit is that now it'll be easier to do that. Now, a lot of people are also arguing, and this is true, more people are driving at night than in the morning. And I get that it could actually wind up causing more accidents. I feel like our society needs to become a little bit more morning-centered than night-centered. I have a feeling that, the amount of people who stay up past midnight a lot of the time is, in my opinion, a little bit disturbing. And I get the social pressures and the to do so, but they hopefully should be going away. I know that they're different per region, and yeah, you could be going to a different region where the norms might be a little bit different. For example, in depending on the state that you go to, or even the region you go to. Texas can be two completely different states. Although I would never go to college in Texas. Texas just sucks in general. Anyway, going back to the topic at hand, DST is what causes, the morning commutes to get a lot rougher. They get a lot rougher at this point. Trust me. And yes, it's a little bit. It's not. You don't really like it when you're doing all your night stuff out and it's pitch black. I mean, your evening stuff. But waking up in sunlight is important too. So then you get to like about October 23rd, where here the sunset is going to be 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock sunset. If without DST. With DST, it'll be 6 o'clock. Now, what time does the sun rise? It rises at about, I don't know, like 7:15, I think. And it'll be 6:15 under this improved land. It will be 6:15 now. Because again, now that you've gotten yourself rid of this extra hour, now you've gotten yourself rid of this extra hour, you can finally again begin to focus on your morning, and maybe it'll just be improved. Now we have to then go on and realize the other stuff that's going on. So again, you get to November. So Halloween, depending on the year, has a sunrise of 7:23 and a sunset of 5:50 every year. November 7th has a sunrise of 6:31 and a sunset of 4:42. But the 1st through 6th, the sunrise and sunset will vary because of DST. This is confusing to say the least, because November 1st could be 6:24 to 4:49, but more likely is at 7:24 to 5:49. Meanwhile, November 6th is 7:30 to 5:43 this year, but in most years it's 6:30 to 4:43. It does definitely vary throughout the year. Throughout the years that you go through, about every 5 or 6 years, it's gonna reset. And well, considering that every 4 years moves 5 days, yeah, that's kind of scenario. Trust me, it gets die-heartedly confusing. Considering that we're already 20 minutes into the video, I'm really pushing around the data. I'm only doing this because I know that I have about 2 gigabytes of data left for the month, but the month ends on November 9th. So, it's just today and the 8th, and then I'm good. And that's the only reason why I'm risking it, is because I don't think that we're going to wind up doing this, but I could be wrong. But I really think that we are in the clear for right now. So that's why I'm making this video advocating for the end of DST. Now, as for the winter, you'll see the sunrise, for example, on December 3rd is going to be at 7 a.m. Now, from when the sunrise is 6:58 on December 1st to all the way to when it's about 7:10 on December 14th, you're going to have a 4:26 p.m. sunset. The sunrise, though, moves by 54 seconds. The solar noon, moves 26 seconds a day. So at this point, the sunrise is going to be moving 54 seconds more than the sunset. Problem? Of course there is. The problem is, though, is that until you wind up at a point where you essentially... That's a bad way of explaining it. Essentially, until you get to a point where you're losing less than 54 seconds of light a day, the sunset is still going to be moving ever so slightly later. But once you get to a point where you're losing less than 54 seconds a day, you will finally begin to have your evening daylight extend a little. Hence, on the winter solstice, you have a 7:14 a.m. sunrise and a 4:29 p.m. sunset. But as your sunrises continue to improve, it's 7:17 and 4:35 by New Year's Eve, and then by January, and the first week of January to 7:18 a.m. as the sun sets, move from about 4:35 to about 4:42. At this point, solar noon has actually reached noon by about January 6th. January 3rd being the earliest with a 4:40 sunset. So then you continue. It's a long and treacherous road. But if you think about it, from December 3rd to February 4th, the sunrise at 7 a.m., it will be after 8 a.m. if you were to have it be in a if you were to have permanent DST. Yeah, you can't have 2 months with the sunrise of after 8 a.m. and that's why I am advocating for the end of DST, because just think about it. The time change, of course, is problematic because not only are there the social impacts, but also like losing an hour of sleep. While you gain an extra hour of sleep, that's nice. You losing an extra hour of sleep is going to be really hard on your body, and it's going to lead to higher unproductivity. And this used to be on a Monday. They had to push back to Sunday to allow people to catch up. But your internal body clock can only be able to handle 10 minutes at once. So it'll take you 6 days to adapt. So it's not going to be until like the Friday or Saturday afterwards where you would have adapted to DST enough to be safe, in my opinion. Of course, the impacts begin to become less minuscule, but it's still a problem. Also, when the clocks go forward, I want to remind you, now, sunsets dramatically improve throughout January. By January 23rd, in spite of having only about a 7:10 a.m. sunrise, about a 7:10 a.m. sunrise, your sunset times have pushed back past 5 o'clock. And there's probably a foot of snow on the ground, but we can talk about that at a later time. This is because you're approaching the coldest time of the year with an average high of 39 degrees and an average low of 26. And you could very easily have a polar vortex to make it worse. I know we've had a lot of significant cold waves in our area at the end of January. 21 had a pretty significant cold wave. 2019 had a significant cold wave this time. 2018 did not. This one was about New Year's Eve where it had one. 2017 also did not. 2016 had a significant one around Valentine's Day. 2015 had one pretty much starting at this time and going into the beginning of March. That was awful. 2014 had one for basically the entire first quarter of the year. There was also a significant one about just before Thanksgiving. 2012 had one for basically the entire month of November, spawning in a wake of Hurricane Sandy. That's right, Sandy spawned a month-long cold wave. Trust me. You know, you in Sandy you had a small humidity index, a 62-degree temperature, and a 60-degree dew point. Trust me, it wouldn't be until the spring where temperatures would get past that point. And the fact that I was only 62, you know, much of November was dominated by temperatures in the 30s and 40s. Parts of it even got into the 20s. And you had basically just as much in the 50s as you did in the 20s. Pretty depressing. And balancing out all of this is that you know it was getting is that, you know, with it being dark out so early, of course you wouldn't have light. So because of the power outages. But it's getting dark out super duper late would also have been a problem, because you really would have had nothing to wake you up, and you probably didn't have alarm clocks. So trust me, a lot of people probably overslept due to Sandy. I know I got up at 4:30 a.m. on the morning after Sandy, but that was because the wind was still howling, and it was very hard to sleep. Really, we should have evacuated, but the NWS really, or the NHC rather, said it was extratropical, so they didn't really do enough precautions against this, because it was extratropical. And even though technically, yes, this was the remnants of the storm, Sandy had the most destructive remnants of a storm ever. They were even worse than Ida's remnants. Ida was the worst storm since Sandy. Sandy was definitely the one of the worst storms to ever impact the Northeast, and was worse than Ida. Oh yeah, I want to show you. So 1:44 p.m. The temperature is 53 degrees. Yeah, that's low now, especially for 1:34. But that was actually a pretty good temperature in the aftermath of Sandy. But going back to the topic at hand, because otherwise we will never move on. So, you know, so then you begin to get, in February, the sunrise is a little bit after 7, the sunset's a little bit after 5. Of course, with DST, being year-round, it would still be 8 and 6. While a 6 p.m. sunset does sound appealing, trust me, nobody likes an 8 a.m. sunrise, especially when you could just push it up. And, you know, at this point, DST's necessity is really being checked, and also the snow on the ground, so nobody wants it. Now, in the end of February, though, things begin to improve on the sunrise side. So you begin to have sunsets be about 5:45, which would be 6:45 on the permanent DST. Catch is, though, is that unlike when it's 5:45 in the fall and the sunrise at 7:30, now the sunrise is at about 6:30. But it would be 7:30 under a permanent DST. Don't get me wrong on that. Don't get me wrong on that. As you proceed into March, you get to a point where finally, so on March 7th, the sunrise is 6:18 a.m. and the sunset is 5:53 p.m. 5:53 p.m. Now, once you head into... Now, March 8th could technically be DST with a 7:16 a.m. sunrise and a 5:54 p.m. sunset. But generally, it's going to not be that early. It's generally going to fall... Now, by March 13th, you're pretty much going to, and most of the time, have the 7:08 a.m. sunrise and a 6:58 p.m. sunset, but you might have a 6:08 sunrise and a 5:58 sunset. But by the end, it'll be 6:06 a.m. sunrise, a 7:06 a.m. sunrise on March 14th because of DST, at 5:09 p.m. sunset. I might have gotten it off a bit. But see, imagine instead of it being 7:05 and 7 about on like March 15th, imagine it being 6:05 and 6. Yes, it would get dark out a lot earlier, and you have to slowly walk towards that. But again, at a massive benefit of you having an easy commute in the morning that won't be stripped of you by DST. While you do walk around this time pretty rapidly, it's just really, in my opinion, not worth it because yes, by the end of March, you will have a 6:30 a.m. sunrise and 7:17 sunset. But wouldn't it be nice to have a 5:30 a.m. sunrise and for it to be totally light out when you begin driving to work? I mean, and a 6:17 p.m. sunset isn't too early either. It still gives you plenty of time to enjoy the nice warmer air, which, by the way, trust me, your average lows are still going to be in the upper 30s and your average highs are still going to be in the upper 50s. The DST used to start in late October, which is a problem, and end in late April. It ending, I think, could personally probably be in about early to mid-April, but it should definitely, it's starting in, but it should definitely end like early October, at earliest. But the time change itself is a problem, and because DST is only useful in a few months of the year, I still think having no DST, and trust me, Russia tried permanent DST too in 2011. It wound up failing, so in 2014 they wound up going back to standard time year-round. The EU is planning on abolishing DST as well. Samoa banning DST, Brazil banning DST. These countries are banning DST for a reason, people. It's because they know the problems of having DST. When people didn't know it was many years ago, they thought it would save energy. Really, it's only saving you about $4 a year in terms of energy, and it's rapidly declining actually as our world becomes more electricized. It's just trust me, DST is no longer worth it. I know a lot of people have this stance. I was personally on the fence for a while, but trust me, when it's dark out and you have to go places when it's dark out, it's just that, yes, you want to have more time in the evening, but it's just a bad idea. It's just a bad idea. It truly is. I get the fact that it's technically wasted daylight, and I understand that completely. But if you really want that extra daylight, you could just get up earlier. Though in practice, that might not actually totally 100% work. Having everyone be that disconjumbled, it might not totally work. So, but still, it's something I want you to really think about, like how necessary do you think DST is? Could we go without it? And what are the cons of DST? Because trust me, they are quite plentiful. Okay, I know this is a long video. When I make a strong stance like this, my videos tend to be longer. I hope I didn't just crush 480 megabytes of data. My parents are going to be really upset with me if I did, even though it's probably still going to be in a 100 to 200 megabyte range. Please subscribe to the channel if you made it this far. I know you must have a really strong stance. I don't make too many videos like these, but they do exist, and there's still a lot of good content on this channel, only to slowly improve. So again, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. I will see you all next time. This is probably one of the strongest opinion videos I've ever made, especially on a subject that has recently come to controversy, hence why I'm uploading it the day after DST. Peace out.